What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative. Today I'm going to be chatting about all of the things that I read over the last week, what I finished, what I'm still working on, what I plan to get into next. Starting with what I finished. I finished up Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. We're going through the illustrated version on this reread, and it is amazing. With it being my first time reading the illustrated, I will have to say that the first one is my favorite of the two, simply because there are way too many spiders in this book. Way too many. There's just never any need for that many spiders. I also started and finished Autumn Gothic by Brian Boyer. If I had not started it so late in the evening, the first night that I picked it up, I would have finished it in a day. That's just how much I enjoy this author's writing style and storytelling ability. If you've ever watched any interview that Brian Boyer has been in, he has a very distinctive voice. Anytime I read his books, I automatically hear it being told to me in my mind by Brian Boyer. He narrates his own books without having to pay to actually produce the audiobook. To try and describe it, it's very matter of fact. He does not water it down in any way, shape, form, or fashion. There are no words in this book that don't need to be there. This is a horror story. It features a haunted house. We've got a serial killer. We've got ritualistic killings, occult worship. All manner of things can be found inside the story. He's such a unique author, and if you like one thing by Brian Boyer, you're going to love everything by Brian Boyer. I also, just before sitting down to film, finished The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. It is the final book in the Mistborn Era 1 trilogy, and it was okay. 85% of this book I spent being bored. I also did not like how it ended. I like the way it ended. I like the conclusion of the story, how that turned out, but I just didn't care for the manner in which we got there. There was so much, for lack of better words, time wasted on things that I did not feel were that crucial to the story. Some of the things that happened needed to be there, sure, but those plot lines were so oversaturated in my opinion. This could have actually been a duology. The first and second in this trilogy were amazing. There were about 4 or 5 big reveals in here. If you took those out of here and the last chapter and tacked that onto the Well of Ascension, you would have had an amazing duology in my opinion. While Brandon Sanderson let me down a little bit with The Hero of Ages, all was not lost in the fantasy genre, because I also read John Palladino's The Trials of Ashmont. This is a grim, dark fantasy in all of its glory. It was fantastic. I loved it. I flew through it. I loved everything about it. A lot of times when I read a book, I love it because I'm invested in one or two of the elements. With this one, I was all in. I loved how grim dark it was. This author was not afraid to take it there. A lot of times authors will have some of these types of things these characters are capable of happen off page, or they're implied. No. The characters in the Trials of Ashmont, everything about these characters are laid bare. We follow their line of thinking, their reasoning. We see how they view themselves. We see how they're viewed by other characters. We see why they decide to perhaps do something that can be considered good by the reader. And other times, depending on what direction the wind is blowing, they choose to do the exact opposite. At times, there was really no rhyme or reason to what these characters did, and I loved it. The characters at times didn't understand the actions they took or why. It was refreshing. It was so good, so dark. If you are not an established fan of grimdark, this one might not be for you. This is not the book to cut your teeth on if you would like to try grimdark, because this is the most grimdarkest grimdark that ever grimdarked. I'm not kidding. It was fabulous. So those are all of the books that I finished this week. As far as what I'm still reading, I only have one I'm still working on, since I'm not kidding, I just finished listening to The Hero of Ages when I was getting ready to film. So the other one that I'm still working on, I started this one a couple of days ago, Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. There's always this level of excitement whenever I get to read a new author. So I was very excited to start this collection and see if I like this author's style, and I do, because she very much reminds me of Clarice Lispector's style of writing, where she takes something that happens in everyday life or a housewife and she writes a short story about it that just transforms the whole thing and just change your way of thinking about it. And I love that about Clarice Lispector, so I've really been enjoying it with Carmen Maria Machado's stories so far. I did read the book description, so I had a little bit of an idea of what to expect. The only word that comes to mind in an attempt to describe what I'm talking about here with these stories is perhaps sexuality. I was not prepared for that. So I'm telling you to prepare you if you haven't read these, but you want to. Know it's there, but it's not over the top. It's not erotica or anything of that nature. I just wasn't expecting it to be so prevalent, I guess. I've read 3 of them so far. One of them went right over my head. I have no idea how to describe that one. The first 2 I loved. I'm not so sure about the next one. It's called Especially Heinous, and it's 272 views of Law and Order SVU. Spoiler alert, I have never watched Law and Order SVU, so I'm not sure I want to read 60 pages of synopsis about a show I've never cared to watch. That story might get skipped. And this is the only one I'm actually reading at the moment, so that means it's time to talk about what I'm going to read next. This evening, I will be finally starting The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This is the Wine and Crime Book Club pick of the month. A lot of folks in the book club have already read it. There have been a few people that really enjoyed it. There have been a lot of people who did not like it or did not enjoy it that much. I am very excited to finally get started on it so I can weigh in and see if I agree with what folks have been saying about it or disagree. And then of course we will have a live show on the last Saturday of the month, October 29th at 1 p.m. Eastern. I will have some co-hosts. I will announce those as soon as I get those cemented down for you, so be watching for that if you've read the book, or if you just want to stop by and see what everyone thought and why. Once I finish this one, which will probably be tomorrow if I had to guess because it's so skinny, I'm going to be going into Daniel Church's The Hollows. This is an arc I got from Angry Robot Books. This one will be out November 8th, I want to say. Yes. So I need to get this one read so I can write a review and tell you guys how I feel about it in case it's one you want to pre-order or pick up on day of release, so be looking for that. I have another one that I'm going to start, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's going to be a surprise for now because 1, it's a TBR record. 2, I may have some more exciting news, but I want to wait till I get that nailed down before I announce it. So there may be some really fun content that's going to be crazy for me, hopefully exciting for you, so keep an eye on the channel to hear more about that. As soon as I hear back from those involved and I have everything nailed down, I'll be sharing it with you. What all have you been reading? Have you read any good spooky books that you want to share about in the comments down below? I would love to hear about it. You guys know I don't read horror just in the month of October. I read it all year long. Thank you all so much for watching and being here today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.